classroom. Hi, everyone. Hi. Okay. I was at New Haven High School today, and I did that same thing, and they all just looked at me, and I was like, okay, this is how this day is going to go. So my name is Amy Hanna, and I am the director of the Respect Team. We are a local nonprofit. We get to go into the middle schools and the high schools. We talk about self-respect and respecting other people. And one of the things that we get to do is come here and do these empowerment sessions. We love coming to Carroll because your administration just really cares about making sure that our parents here are well taken care of and making sure that you have the resources and the information that you need. So we have a lot of things planned for you tonight. Not only am I going to speak to you a little bit tonight, Brittany King is also going to speak to you tonight. She's our social media coordinator. And then Paige Klingenvale is also going to speak to you. She is the SAP counselor here at Carroll, and she'll explain a little bit about what that is. But before we begin with that, Courtney Veith, who is administrator here at Carroll High School, she's going to come up and share with you a little bit about what it is that Carroll does with their digital literacy and social media and computers here at Carroll.
Woo. Good afternoon, good evening. Thank you so much for coming tonight. This is something that we have been working on for the last, I don't know, even 5 years, just trying to figure out what is this going to look like when we decide to roll out computers to all of our kids. And then how do we help educate them so that they're making positive choices with the computers that they're given. And then also, how do they apply all of that information that they're getting to their phones or to social media or to the way that they interact with others. So a few things that Northwest has decided to do, I think you all know that they all now have computers at this point, but what we've done is decided to put into place a sessions to develop our students further in the areas of two things, digital literacy and then digital fluency. And so those are two topics that we cover K through 12. Now obviously the lessons that the students are learning are very different and it really depends on their age. So middle school, high school, tend to have sessions that are much closer in topics, but digital literacy is knowing what digital tools and resources exist and how to navigate them. So what's out there, what's a good thing to use, how do I go about them, how do I make sure that I'm using them appropriately. And then digital fluency is knowing how, when, and why we use digital media to achieve a desired outcome. And I think that it's really important for kids to understand the differences between the two. So things that we've kind of talked about are student digital footprints and reputation. So kids are actually getting on, they're Googling their names, and they're able to see what pops up with their name just in the short time that they have had social media, for instance. It's interesting, my daughter does not have any social media. However, she Googled her name and 3 pictures came up because of me. Because when I posted something on Facebook and I attached her name with it, it automatically links. So here she is, she has 0 social media, 0, and she already has a digital footprint because of her mom. Yikes. Not even something that I thought about as I'm going and tagging and doing those sorts of things. So kids are able to start learning through that. They talk about cyberbullying and managing digital drama. Within the school, I know it's crazy to think, but we have drama occasionally. And the more that we have digital with phones and so forth, it just gets bigger. And unfortunately, what we've seen is that kids just aren't able to step away from it. I don't know that when we say bullying is really any different than what it was when we were growing up. The biggest difference is we could put it away, we could step away from it. Unfortunately, our kids are like this all the time, and we see that in the schools. We tell them, if we see their phone, we take it away. We ask them for a phone, and you would think that we are cutting off an arm as we take away a phone, because we have some kids who just, I can't do this. Nope, I'll get suspended. I'm not giving you my phone. Just, parents are gonna come pick it up. My parents are gonna come pick it up. That's between you and your parents, but they're so attached to that phone. And so kids just need to learn how to deal with their emotions and how to deal with conflict appropriately through social media or through their phones. We talk a little bit about relationships and communication online. And the fact that communication is just not always with our phone, but we also need to communicate face to face. But then when we are communicating through social media and or email, how do we go about that appropriately? When we first got all of our emails from the kids this year, it was amazing to see students emailing staff members, hey, what's up? Can you, and then just not telling me who you are, or they're talking in text codes as well. So important that they understand the etiquette that's behind it. So we've talked a little bit about that as well. Talk about internet safety, how we go about posting. And then we also talk about self-image, because so much of what we talk about with social media, kids see themselves by the number of likes they have, the number of retweets they have, the number of thumbs ups, hearts that they get on Instagram, and they start to see their self-worth and their identity, their self-image through those parts. And so we are trying to address what that means and how we really need to identify with ourselves, not through our social media parts. And then we continue to go on through copyright, and just recently the kids are starting to talk about coding as well, and understanding how that provides opportunities for kids. So it's not just about how just to behave, but how it can provide really awesome opportunities for our students as well. So we have a wide range. The kids are able to get those every month, and we'll continue to do those next year and move forward with those. But we are fortunate that we have people that are putting lessons together, and that we're constantly talking about that, not just during those lessons, but throughout the school day, and how to approach that. So I think as a school, we try and help the kids as much as we want to help you in talking with them about that as well. So that is from the school side for you. So thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. Yeah. I love how great our administrators are here. Are you guys thankful for your administrators? You should be. The fact that she even took her time out of her night to be here. Of course, Mr. Binning back there in the back as well. Just being here tonight and showing their support of something that is so important for all of us to understand. I love that you just said the comment about your daughter's picture being out there. The second you said that, I thought, oh my goodness, I do that all the time. I constantly am posting something about my kids, and so that makes me a little nervous now that you just said that. So we are going to talk through some of those things that do make us a little bit nervous. We're going to talk through how to help our teenagers to notice red flags with their social media and all the different things that they are doing with their social media, with their cell phones, with their computers. Something just for you to kind of know, if you want to follow along, or if you want to be able to access some notes. Some of us are note takers. I am completely guilty of that. So if you want something like that, we are posting the information tonight onto our website. If you look on that little pamphlet that you grabbed on your way in, our website is on there, and you can check that out, and just go to blog, and then you'll see Brittany's information, you'll see my information. Eventually we'll post Paige's information too. We're also doing a Facebook Live, and so that is something that you can check out. We will post that on our Respect Team Facebook page, and you can access this information later too, or if you have a friend that wasn't able to come, then they could watch that Facebook Live video as well. So without any further ado, Brittany King, come on up.
Hi. I'm not as tall as Amy. Like she said, my name is Brittany King. I am the social media coordinator for Respect Team. I am also the online marketing manager for a big tech company. And then previously, I ran social media for Parkview Health. So I eat, live, breathe digital. I love it. Mostly, primarily social media, although I kind of span across all digital platforms. So I'm kind of here to talk to you about some of the more logistical things, how to relate to your teens and their social media, how they relate to social media, and then some really practical application. I actually have screenshots of setting up your privacy settings in Facebook and Instagram and things like that. So I guess I wanted to start out with, how many of you have Facebook and use it? Okay, what about Instagram? Okay, Twitter? Snapchat? Okay, that's kind of what I expected, which is good. Okay, So the first thing that I want to talk about, this is going to be, is social media isn't all bad, right? So we typically hear, can you hear me without the microphone? If I turn it away? No? Okay. All right. Okay. Social media isn't all bad, right? We typically hear about a lot of the bullying or, the scary things like predators coming up and, snatching away your children, and people being mean. But there's also, so many wonderful things that happen on social media. So a couple examples of this that I just pulled out were, I don't know if any of you heard about how last summer 80 people linked arms, complete strangers, on the beach at Florida to save a family that was caught in an undertow. And somebody posted about it on social media and it went viral, and it was such an uplifting story that just kind of showed a glimpse of the good in this world that we never would have heard about if someone didn't post about it on social media. The other thing that is happening a little bit more recently, specifically with teens, no matter what side of the debate you stand on with everything that's going on with gun control, the one thing that we can be sure of is that teenagers are using social media as a platform to create some type of movement. And so this is a tweet from one of the students that was at that high school, and you can see that she has a little blue check mark. Twitter started proactively verifying their accounts so that people knew who the real kids were and who had created fake accounts and things like that. So they're taking to what they know to make a difference. And so I think that that's really huge, and I think that our job as parents, I have a 5-year-old, so I don't have a teenager, but eventually my job too as a parent is going to be to teach our children to value and to be good stewards of social media, because it is such a powerful platform. And so instead of talking about how it's bad or scary or treating it like it's unimportant or a waste of time, I kind of want to challenge everybody tonight to treat it as something that is important. It's something that you need to take care of and have responsibility toward, and something that I hope that you guys can work together with your teens to cultivate a really good relationship with social media. I'm using this to stay on track because I'll just talk and talk and talk and talk. Okay, so let's see. So it's highly unlikely, the other thing that I wanted to talk about, it's highly unlikely that we're going to be able to stay a step ahead of our teenagers when it comes to anything technological. Anything social media related, it's not going to happen. You can try as hard as you can, and I eat, live, breathe social media, and I still, I help coach an equestrian team at my barn, and it's a lot of middle school and high school girls. And I'll get out there after working on social media all day, and they'll be like, "Did you see the new Snapchat filter?" And I'll be like, "Dang it, no, I didn't." How do you know about this before I do? Weren't you in school? So it's those types of things that are always going to happen to us. So I think that that's another reason why it's really important to teach our children how to interact well with social media, because we can't protect them from everything. The other thing is we can't be there all the time. We can't monitor everything that they do. And even if we can, when they're in middle school or, when they're under our household, they're going to turn 18, and hopefully they'll go away to school. And then they have to figure out how to interact with social media, interact with other people, stay safe all by themselves. And it gets pretty scary in college. So setting those good habits now is really important. The other thing that is important to think about is that if teenagers are upset or passionate about something, or even super happy about something, they're going to post about it on social media first, right? So even when I was in high school, it wasn't as big, but I had a Facebook, and you always knew if I was in a fight with a friend, or if my boyfriend and I had broken up, because I would post sad song lyrics as my status, right? And so that will give us a really good insight into how our teenagers are thinking, and that's how a lot of them communicate too. So they'll probably know if someone is struggling before you even will, because they'll notice, oh, they posted something weird on their Facebook status. So it's good that if you can have a good relationship and talk about that with your students, so that you're not left as much in the dark, and it's something that you can use as another way to connect with them instead of kind of drive things apart. The other thing that's really important to teach teenagers is that in this day and age, your employers will Google you. They will check your social media. I was that person who checked people's social media because I was really good at finding things out about people. It's one of my pastimes. So anything anything that they do. It doesn't matter if you can delete it. Like, somebody can find it. It doesn't matter really if they think they have good privacy settings. If a friend doesn't have good privacy settings, their employer will find it. In one of my past positions, actually, people would, if someone was kind of interacting in a poor way on like a news article site in the comments, people get in fights and comments and people are a little bit mean. It was a regular occurrence for somebody to go to that person's profile, say, oh, they work here, and then message the workplace's profile, which I received. And then we had to report it to HR. So we had a couple interns who, they were high school interns, and they were just, I think, trolling. Do you guys know what trolling means? Just trying to stir the pot on social media, and they got reported to me via the page, and then I had to report them to HR, and HR had to call them in. So it's something that people don't think about, but it's something that definitely happens, and it's really important. So that's another thing that I would encourage everybody to kind of talk to their students about. So next I'm going to do an overview of kind of the big four, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. There are lots of other apps. There's, Kik or Tumblr or Reddit, and I was sitting there and I was like, oh my gosh, what should I go over? And I think that I'm just going to focus on the big four. A lot of the other ones they'll use and then they'll give up, and by the time I start to use it, or by the time that article comes out, that's the new app that your children are using, they're already done with it. So it doesn't. I'm going to kind of focus on the big four today. Okay. So this is your Facebook. This is my home page and what I saw when I logged in. And how many of you know how to set your privacy settings to the most private that it can possibly be? Does anyone have a good handle on that? Okay. So I'll go over it a little bit. So you can see there's that caret kind of in the corner, and if you scroll down to settings, that's what you'll click on, and then privacy. And you can see all of these. I'm going to stand over here and shout maybe. Do this. Okay, so here's where you're going to be able to find who can view your profile, who can look at your timeline, who can send you friend requests, and then who can see your posts. So you can kind of see at the top, can you read that at all?
No.
It says, who can see my profile? And so then that is something, we'll post it all in the blog. But that's something that you can look at and you can say, okay, I only want my friends to see it. Or I only want, I don't care if everybody sees it. You can, if somebody has a little world on their post, that means that it's very public and everybody can see it. So you can kind of go in here and check all of your profiles. And I would suggest just setting everything to friends only or as private as it can be. Because even if you, kind of was mentioned before, even if your children have really high privacy settings, a lot of times parents don't. And it's not because they don't care, it's just because they don't really know. So if I'm going and I'm thinking, oh, I want to find something out about this student, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to skip the student's profile altogether usually and go straight to parents or aunts or uncles and kind of see if I can find a way around those students' privacy settings and then look at pictures and kind of make deductions from that. So it's really important that you kind of set the example, and then this also you can help your child understand some of the Facebook privacy settings. A lot of teenagers don't use Facebook as much anymore as the other ones, but so this is particularly for parents. So this is kind of a little bit of an example too of who can see your statuses. And I wanted to point this out because you can change this based on the status. And you can also say everybody except this handful of people. So I have a pre-populated group of people that oh, I know if I'm going to post, something political, these people aren't going to want to see it. So I can just delete them. That works also so that if your student has a Facebook account, they can just go ahead and say, oh, I'm going to post this and exclude only my mom. And then you'll never see it and you'll never know. So that's another reason kind of why just teaching them to have a good relationship with social media is so important, because there are so many loopholes and you're not going to be able to monitor everything they do all of the time. And this can be changed for every single post. So you could say, oh, well, I've seen they post every day. Well, they could have just posted an extra one and deleted you from it. Okay, and then this is timeline and tagging. So this is something where you can go in and you can say, okay, I want to monitor who's going to post on my wall. I want to view things before they're posted. So that way you can view like, oh, if, my grandma likes to share all my pictures like all the time. And you can say, oh, okay, well, if she wants to share a picture of somebody else to my profile, like I can monitor who sees that. It's another thing where you can say, okay, people aren't allowed to tag me unless I view it first so that I can, check their privacy settings and things like that. So Facebook actually does a really good job of helping you monitor everything about your profile. It's just knowing how to do it and setting it up appropriately. Facebook is also the biggest source of information for people. So if somebody wants to get information about a student, Instagram, it doesn't have a ton of stuff that you fill out. Twitter, it doesn't really have a ton of stuff that you fill out. Facebook, though, knows everything about you, even without you telling it. So that's why Facebook is so important, to keep everything super private. So Instagram privacy, you can see there, that's my Instagram. And then really the only thing you have to do to keep your Instagram private is to go up to that little gear and then scroll down to private account, flip that on, and then it'll look like that girl. I don't know that girl. And so that's her private Facebook page. Or her private Instagram. I can't see anything on there except for that little headline. And one thing that I want to talk about with that headline, this is kind of the same for how Twitter works. That's how we'll post everything in the blog, but that's how you kind of go and fix your Twitter. And kids, a lot of times, I noticed, I just checked real fast before I came. I want to see, how many Carroll High School students could I find? They'll put in that line, like CHS, 18 or whatever. So then I can just find them. And I just know, oh, this is probably how old they are because this is probably when they're graduating. And then I can find their group of friends. And if I can get one of their friends to accept my friend request, then when I send them a friend request, they'll see, oh, well, we have a mutual friend. And then they'll probably accept my friend request. So that's kind of just something that you might want to warn your teenagers to be super careful about on that little line. I know that it's really fun to have that community on Twitter, or Instagram even, but it's something to watch out for. So Snapchat. Snapchat is a beast all of its own. And if you have your privacy settings set correctly on Snapchat, nobody can find you. You have to have their contact information in your phone, or be in a group with them where you can do your Snap QR code and all of that stuff. If you do not have your Snapchat settings set correctly, people can see where you are at all times. They have that new Find My Friends thing, and I went in and I turned it off, and there's a screenshot of how to turn it off. But I just was like, oh, I wonder how many of my friends I could see. I could see where half of my friends were at any given time today, which is scary a little bit. It's also doubly bad if you have that turned on and then you have it set so that anyone can search you and anyone can add you on Snapchat, or your stories are public, things like that. So Snapchat is pretty straightforward in their settings. You can go in and monitor it all from one page because you have to do it from your phone. And just make sure that everything is set to friends only or contacts only, whatever the options are, because this is super fun and super, harmless if used to send, silly filters of yourself to your best friends. But it's also something where it can get more and more dangerous, the less and less privacy settings that you have. And then things do disappear within 24 hours, so it's hard to monitor. But that's I'm not saying that to scare you. No, Snapchat's terrible. It's not. You just have to make sure that the privacy settings are set correctly for Snapchat. Yeah, and then I wanted to talk about, just really fast, video games. Does anyone in here like playing online video games like Halo, or do you have students that like to play online role-playing games, or Minecraft, or Halo, or all of that? It's all super fun. My dad actually owned an Xbox gaming center, so I was super involved in that all through high school. And the one thing that students don't realize is you could be playing with anyone anywhere in the world, right? Which is super cool on the one hand because you can make friends all over the world. On the other hand, it's a little bit dangerous. So teaching your students to recognize those red flags and having them feel comfortable enough that when something that just feels a little off to them does happen, they're coming to you. instead of trying to handle it themselves. And also monitoring the trash talk. So I think that's just like one of the things that you do in video games is like really trash talk, really bad. But it can transform into bullying really quickly on both sides. And so just making sure that you're talking to your students about having respect for people, even if you're, trying to shoot them in a video game. And then also making sure that they're feeling like valued and respected and, not like taking that trash talk a little bit too seriously. Let's see. I also just wanted to touch on kind of understanding that social media is a big deal to teenagers. It's a little bit of a popularity contest, like was already mentioned. So some of these things that, don't accept friend requests from people that you don't know. There's a whole new layer of that when you're trying to get your follower count higher than the people you're following, right? Because that makes you look cool. Also, if you're trying to get your likes up, or if you think that maybe if you leave your Twitter or public, you'll say something really funny, and then you'll be discovered, and then you'll be on Ellen, and it'll be awesome, right? Like, it's so hard because there's all these different dynamics to convince your teenager, like, well, the most important thing right now is that your Twitter is private, and just coming to them with a place of understanding and understanding that, that is something that they look at and something that they talk about, and it might not be something that we understand, but it's something that's really important to them. And also, understanding the dynamics of like, oh, I was on Instagram and then I saw my two best friends like posted an Instagram story and they're hanging out without me, and that brings a whole new dynamic to friendships. I'm 27 years old and like that still happens to me sometimes, and I'm sure it happens to everybody in this room. And so just being kind of aware of that and understanding, oh, like some of that could be going on, which is going to be talked about more as today goes on. But I kind of threw a lot at everybody. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
That where they can see where you're at, is it true that they can also look at the pictures that you posted and see where those pictures were taken?
Yeah, so Snapchat does a couple of different things where if you have your settings set to anyone can see you at any time and you make your stories public, then that means that they can see where you were when you posted your story. They can see where you are currently. Your story lasts for 24 hours, so you can search, like right now you could go into Snapchat and search Headwaters Park, and then it'll show you a compilation of snaps that were taken at Headwaters Park from all different types of people, but they link to your profile. So you can search by, I'm hanging out at Headwaters Park, I want to see how many people are here today. You could definitely find out that information. So. But it doesn't pull in if your stories are private. Does that make sense? Okay. Are there any other questions? Comments? Yeah?
So how do you handle situations where you have other kids posting pictures of your kids?
Yeah. I would make sure that, one of the privacy settings that you can set is there's a question in there that says, make my Facebook like searchable by Google. And so that's probably one of the settings that, isn't set to no if you can like search your child's name and then it pops up. Because you can set that and then Google can't find your child. So I would have like very real conversations with the other adults in your life and say, hey, I would prefer it, if you make sure these privacy settings are in place or you don't tag pictures of my child. I guess you can't really prevent anyone from posting a picture, but you can prevent them from tagging your child. And so that's another thing that I would set the tagging like monitoring to like, it won't post the tag until you approve it. And so then you can always deny all the tags, if that makes sense. So that's one way. And then just having like real conversation, I think too, saying, hey, I prefer that you didn't post this, or at least not publicly. Yeah.
Okay, on Snapchat, if you're not even on it,
Yeah.
you need to worry about someone, following you or whatever.
No, yeah, if you don't have a Snapchat, you're fine. Yeah. Anything else? Oh, yeah.
Is there some resource that we as a parent can check how safe the platforms are? Like, I don't have Snapchat. How I find all the details that I should be aware, like, I know Facebook, it's easy for me, but and there are always something new, like Musical.ly, or at some point my daughter played Animal Jam, and they can chat on it. Is it safe? So can I go somewhere and see, like, what is safe, what is not? Should I tell her, no, that's not okay, and stop her? I need reasons. I can't just say I said so. It doesn't work well, at least.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there are resources if you Google it, and I can compile some and put it in the blog. But the thing about it is, social media is always changing. Technology is always changing. That's one of the reasons why I got into the field. You can wake up in the morning and it'll be different by the time you go to bed. So, like, for example, to be completely transparent, my original notes about Snapchat, I was like, oh, it's okay because you can't search by name. And they had just added a feature where you could, like, search by name. And so I had to text Amy, and I was like, my notes are wrong, I have to change it. So it's going to be, like, really hard to stay ahead of. And so you can compile the resources, and then next week those resources are updated. So I think that the best way to go about it is figuring out, like, what parameters and boundaries you think are good for your child, that you think they can handle. So if it's, hey, you can play this app, like my 5-year-old plays an app that has chatting available, but I turned it off. And most apps will have chatting available, so that's something that you just have to talk about with each new app, like, okay, but you have to turn off chatting. And then really helping them understand, like, the importance and the reasons behind privacy, and then helping them understand, like, hey, here's the red flags, and kind of empowering them to make the right choices, which is, like, hard and scary, but at the same time, I think that is, like, the best way to make sure that they're safe, because I don't believe that there is any possible way to know everything that's going to happen on social media or apps or anything before it happens. Does that make sense? I know that's not like a super good answer, but yeah, and you can go in and you can learn about each and every app, but they're going to change the features. I mean, when Snapchat started, you couldn't add anybody. There weren't public stories. You couldn't find anybody who wasn't in your contacts list, and now all of a sudden, you can see where everyone's located at all times. So it's definitely a beast to stay on top of. Okay. Thank you.
Let's thank Brittany. So the biggest thing to take away from that is this. First of all, don't be scared, okay? As a parent, I'm sitting here going, I know nothing. I know nothing. Like, I feel like I need to go home and I need to fix everything, and I'm gonna call Brittany probably tonight and say, come over and teach me how to do everything, because I know nothing. Don't panic. And really take from what she said and have a conversation with your kids. If you get anything out of tonight, it's talk to your kids. They know way more than we could ever even imagine knowing. I constantly, if I have something wrong with my phone, I give it to a teenager. If I don't know how to add something, an app or whatever, in fact, Brittany was like, do you have the Facebook app so that we can make it live? And I said, I don't know, and I just handed it to her. So I understand the fear that comes with your kids having access to all this technology, but just keep having those conversations with them. We will post everything on our blog, everything that you saw up here, or we're trying to see because it was kind of small, everything on there we will post on our blog so that you can see that. I will actually have Brittany do step-by-steps for you too, and if you have questions, make sure that you just email us, let us know, and we'll walk you through that too, okay? Our goal is to help you and to be a resource to you. We'll do the best that we can. We're not perfect. We don't know it all, but we do know some stuff, and so we'll help you with that. So my portion of talking tonight is to talk a little bit about relationships. So your teenagers that are in a relationship or would like to be in a relationship, and how that translates into social media and into technology. So there's really only 3 lessons that I want to help you to teach your teenager. The first lesson is teaching them how to protect themselves. So we're talking specifically about sexting, okay? sending those images and things like that. This is a problem that we are seeing with our high school students, of course, but we are seeing it with our middle school students, and we are seeing it with our upper elementary students, okay? It's becoming younger and younger and younger. So have conversations with your kids about how to protect themselves. So sexting, if you don't know what sexting is, that is just sending images or messages that are explicit, sometimes to somebody that they know, sometimes to somebody that they think they know. And that's something that we're going to talk about for a little bit today. While many teens openly admit that they know it's wrong to post the sexual photos, a lot of times they do it because of a couple different reasons. One, because they're asked to. So we have a tendency to talk to our teenagers that are sending the pictures, but we also need to be talking to our teenagers that are asking for the pictures too. That's becoming a big issue. And so helping our teens to say, you know what, this isn't appropriate. It's not a good way of protecting yourself. It's not a good way of protecting somebody else too. Another reason that they do it is because it's a great way of hooking up without the worry of pregnancy and STDs. Think about that. That is happening a lot with our teenagers. And so talk with them and help them understand what is a healthy relationship, what is an unhealthy relationship, what is a red flag, what is not a red flag, and then talking them through those things. Teens who say that they have sent or posted a sexually revealing photo or video, 22% of teenage girls, 18% of teenage boys. So it's both. Teens that have sent a sexually suggestive message, 37% of teen girls, 40% of teen boys, and 48% admit to receiving the suggestive messages. 71% of teen girls and 67% of teen boys have shared it with their boyfriend or girlfriend. Almost always, the majority of the time, it's happening in relationship situations because the boyfriend asks for a picture or the girlfriend asks for a picture, because it goes both ways, okay? So it's happening constantly with our relationships, and sometimes it's this rite of passage. They just think that that's what they're supposed to do. I'm in this relationship, they love me, they ask for the picture, of course I'm gonna send that. And so that's a conversation to have with your teenagers and say, hey, this is what is unhealthy, this is what is healthy in these relationships. So, how does it affect their present and their future? Something that it's really important for you to help your teenager understand is the dangers that come with sexting. We know, of course, that if that relationship was to break up, then that picture is in the hands of someone that they just broke up with. I talked to countless amounts of teenagers about this, where they come to me and are extremely upset because of a situation where there was a picture that was sent, the breakup happened, and now this other person is holding that over them. Well, I have this picture of you, and now I can do whatever I want with it. And so have those talks with your teenagers, helping them to think ahead to the future. What happens if there's a breakup? And talking with them about that. The other thing that happens too, and this is happening especially in Indiana, is when those pictures are being sent, we have this issue of child pornography. Some of you are looking at me like, what? Yes. It is something that's happening because if the picture is of a minor and there's an 18-year-old or older that is sending that picture or taking that picture and sending it to somebody else or receiving that picture and they have it on their phone, now all of a sudden we have child pornography laws that are coming into play. Now, in some of our states, because sexting has become such a thing with our teenagers, they have enacted specific laws that address sexting by minors. Many states are considering this legislation and they're establishing penalties for minors, things like warnings, fines, probation, detention, versus an actual child pornography conviction. If they're convicted with child pornography, then they have to register as a sex offender. In Indiana, we do not have the minor law, okay? We don't have that. So if that happens in Indiana with our teenagers, they're looking at the child pornography situation and they're looking at the future sex offender list. So talk to your teenagers and say, you know, I know that you think that this is no big deal. It's a big deal. It can affect you in big ways, and really talking with them about their future and how their future can be affected by the choices today. I say that constantly in our classes. Whatever you choose to do today affects you today and for the future. Just kind of keep that running theme with your teenagers and helping them to think ahead in those small decisions that can become really big problems. So how do we talk to our teens, and how do we help them to say no? First of all, just talking to them about inappropriate and appropriate use of technology, making sure that they have a contract. This is something that we've talked about a few times in these empowerment sessions. If you do not have a technology contract with your teenager, we do have one on our website. It's in our blog. You're welcome to check that out. Print it off, make it your own, put in your own times and things like that, but it does give you a guideline to work through some things with your teenager. Talk to them about that unhealthy expression of love. Know who your teen is hanging out with, both offline and online. Make sure your teen's online profiles, just like Brittany was saying, have that private or personal settings set so that they can't be found. Teach them to not respond impulsively to anything online or via text. Encourage them to evaluate the consequences of posting their thoughts or pictures before hitting the send button. So we talk to our teens a lot about think before you send. Take a minute, take a pause, put a pause on it. Think before you send it. Is this really going to be a good situation? Thinking through your future. Making sure your teen understands that once the pictures are out there, they cannot be deleted. And just like what we talked about, somebody can use that against them. I love this. It says, this is one thing that I found online and I just loved it. It said, let your teens know that www not only stands for World Wide Web, but it also stands for the whole world's watching. So be careful. Most importantly, encourage an open dialogue between you and your teen. Set aside each time of day to just listen and talk with your teenager about what's going on in their life. I love talking. I have two teenage girls, one who's in 8th grade and one who's a sophomore, both Carroll kids, and we have a lot of conversations about their life. And it starts as simple as, how was your day today? And sometimes I get that's what I get. And then I'll say, okay, tell me something exciting that happened today. Well, this. Okay, what was challenging that happened today? Well, this. And then sometimes they just talk about other things that happened. Oh, so-and-so went through this and so-and-so went through that. And I just say, and what do you think about that? And what do you think about that? And sometimes that gets them talking about themselves a little bit, and then it allows me to have this conversation about life issues. So it's a good thing to just kind of put into practice. The second thing that we want to teach our teenagers is how to protect their boundaries. Dating violence does not always look violent. Okay, we think of dating violence and we automatically think of violent situations. Sometimes it's not that. A lot of times it's teenagers feeling like they have to monitor each other's activity in relationships. 85% of teenagers in a romantic relationship expect to hear from their partner or significant other at least once a day. 11% expect to hear from their partner hourly. 35% expect to hear from them every few hours. It's important to talk to your teenager because a lot of times what ends up happening is your teen just thinks that's just part of it. Well, we're in a relationship and we're supposed to talk to each other all the time. And if they text me, I have to text back because if I don't text immediately back, they're gonna get mad at me and then they're gonna break up with me. That happens a lot. Have those conversations with your teenagers. Help them to set appropriate boundaries. What is okay? What is not okay? What is healthy? What is not healthy? 5% of teenage daters report that a former partner checked up on them multiple times per day after the relationship ended. So even though your teenager might be out of a relationship that they know is unhealthy, helping them to set some boundaries, parameters, even after that, because sometimes the way the person wants to keep control is they just keep texting and texting and texting and texting. And then that person feels like they have to respond, and then that's all it takes. So have those conversations about that too. 16% of teen daters have been required by their partner to remove former girlfriends or boyfriends from their friends list on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or other social media. 13% of teenagers with dating experience report that their partner demanded that they share their passwords. Some of you have experienced this. If you have a teenager at home that's in a relationship, you might want to ask them, hey, does your boyfriend or your girlfriend know all of your passwords? Chances are the answer is going to be yes, because there's something with that relationship status that they feel like that shows trust. But actually, it's a really bad situation, especially if there's a breakup that happens. So help them to set these boundaries. If this person is demanding that you give them their passwords, probably not a good person for you to be with. If this person is saying that you can't be friends with so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, you need to really determine if that's the kind of person that you want to be in a relationship with. If your teenager's in a relationship, ask them these questions. It's really important. After the relationship ends, 22% of teenagers have had a partner use the internet, social media, or just their cell phone to call them names, put them down, or say really mean things to them. 15% report that a current or former partner spread rumors about them using all sorts of digital platforms like social media. So even after the relationship's ending, that's happening too. They're kind of being bullied by that other person. And so talk with your teenagers about that too. If you haven't had those conversations, make sure you have those conversations. So how do we help them to do this? Of course, talking to them, helping them to feel confident in their ability to set the boundaries. Sometimes our teenagers just need to know that they're valuable enough to say, this isn't okay. I'm going to set my foot down and I'm going to say, this is what's okay and this is what's not okay, and really setting those boundaries. And then of course helping them to stay aware of the red flags and to notice them before they happen, to know what those red flags are. If they're in a relationship right now and they don't know what those red flags are, talk about that before they happen. The third thing for them to learn is how to protect their future. Like what we've talked about, choices today will affect their future. Here's the issue with teenagers and understanding the big picture. A lot of times when I say to a teenager, you need to look at what the big picture is, they automatically think of the end result. And sometimes we do that as adults too. We think the big picture and we think the end result. But we forget all of the steps that it takes to get to that end result. Everything that we do, our media, the things that we watch in the news, our athletes, everything, we're always looking at the end result. But we forget all the different things that it took for them to get to that level. And so we need to help our teenagers to understand that piece too. So how do we do that? We build their self-confidence, that they are worth making good choices. We place more attention on understanding the journey and less on the end result. We share our own personal stories of struggle. We've all been through something hard. Some of us have been through some hard relationship things in our past. And sometimes we get nervous to talk to our teenagers about what we've been through because we think it's going to give them ideas. But don't worry about that. The more that you talk to your teenagers and you share some of those stories that you've personally gone through, it helps them to understand that and connect with that and be able to work through that themselves as well. And then of course, practice what you would like your teenager to model. So if we're expecting specific things from our teenagers, we need to be doing that too. So if we're saying, you know what, you need to make sure that you're treating other people in a respectful way in this relationship, we should probably be doing that too, because they're watching us to model how they should be acting as well. Okay? Any questions before we go to Paige on relationships and social media? And this is all on the blog too. Okay. Yes?
This might be a weird question.
No,
I've
weird
heard
question.
with text messages that they have the ability to delete things, to delete conversations, delete threads. Any ideas how you would find that out, or even how to go about with seeing what you're not seeing, I guess?
Okay, so I'm going to help you with two things, okay? It goes back to what I've said 1,000 times in this conversation, right? Talking to your teenagers, making sure they're staying open with you about different things, okay? But what is the app?
Teen Safe.
Teen Safe, Are you familiar with this? Okay. When Paige comes up here, would you mind talking about that? Okay. She's going to talk to you about a thing that's called Teen Safe, and that does help you to be able to monitor that text messaging, and that is happening. Okay. So that will help you with that. But bottom line, if your teenager is deleting text messages and deleting threads, they're hiding other things too. And so it's not good. Even if you have that thread, there's other things. And so making sure that you have that open dialogue with them. Why are they deleting all that information? Why don't they want you to see it? What is happening that you're missing? And then talking with them about that open dialogue. It's really important. Any other questions? Okay. Paige?
Mm-hmm.
Right. First off, thank you guys so much for spending your time tonight learning about this stuff. You would not be here right now, first off, if you weren't a little concerned, if this wasn't going on in your household and you had a lot of questions. So this organization, in addition to what we do here at Carroll, we hope we can answer some of those questions and also provide a resource for you. So my name is Paige Klingenpeel. I am the Parkview's Student Assistance Program Counselor. That is a mouthful. It's called the SAP program. I'm here at Carroll 4 days a week, and I'm at Maple Creek Middle School 1 day a week. My goal, my job, my passion, frankly, is to walk alongside these kiddos and talk about things that they're struggling with. We have the opportunity every day to get real with your kids. So we see this stuff. That's why we're able to get up here and say, P.S. Snapchat, that's Bad News Bears. You need to get on that and check that out, because we see this stuff, this kid's going on in the background. So what I love telling parents about is a little bit of the psychological, sociological, cultural, emotional, all that fun stuff that's going on with your kids' brains. Because their brains aren't fully developed until they're 25 years old. I don't know about you all, but I mean, I had my first car, I had a house, I had my first baby by the time I was 25. So there's a whole lot of time before our kids' brains become fully developed. The last part to develop in their brain is impulse control, consequential thinking, emotional regulation, all the good stuff that makes us mature adults, right? So now we're handing them these phones and expecting them, encouraging them, trying to teach and educate them to make wise decisions when physically their brains have a really hard time doing that. So I hope tonight, again, that we're educating you so you can go home and educate your kids. And I also want to point out, we've said it a lot tonight, don't allow fear to dominate your parenting. This is one of the biggest things I try to tell parents. I'm a parent of 4. I have elementary students all the way up from like preschool age. You can't teach your kids to swim in the living room, right? You can't teach your kids to swim in the living room. So we got to allow them to have access to some of these things while they're still in your home so that you can watch them, you can encourage them, and teach them. So let's talk a little bit about how their brains are changing. Again, they're developing until they're 25, but how is technology changing their brains? Be mindful, it's actually happening in our brains as well. So one of the first things, instant gratification. Who likes sugar and caffeine? I think we can all raise our hands to that, right? Well, technology hits the same pleasure points in their brains as sugar, which, if you also know, sugar also hits those brains like opium, heroin, cocaine. So it makes you wonder why they panic so much when you take away that phone from them. Not only are you taking away their social, you're taking away their pleasure center, which they know no other way to get a hold of. So it's affecting instant gratification. We are also not teaching them how to delay the gratification as well as stress management. So you have these kids that are coming home that are so overwhelmed by all the stressors in life. Hello, that's real world, isn't it? But they don't know how to deal with it because too often they've allowed information, communication, anything that they want is at their fingertips. So that's one part of how technology is changing their brains. Another part is the constant stimulus. Again, this goes with the instant gratification as a constant stimulus. You wonder, how can they go all the time in school and not learn anything? Well, it's because they're constantly having to adjust. Their brain has learned that they need the constant stimulation. Even us, right? How many times do we go all day long having conversations and then we try to come home and we try to just read a book? It's hard for our brains to stay focused. That's what's happening with our kids. So that's why they can't look you in the eye for longer than 2 seconds, because their brain needs something else. What's going on? What's that noise? Where's the squirrel? All of that is going on again because technology is making our kids ADHD. All right? And mind you, it's doing it to your brains as well. And if you take a break, if you abstain for a couple hours and you start feeling that twitch, yeah, that's probably because your brain is a little bit adjusted to that as well. Okay, another thing, and this was mentioned earlier, the need for affirmation. Everybody in this room, every single human being has been designed to need love, to need security, and to find purpose. And guess what? They can find it on social media. It's temporary. They get the first like, they get the first follow, they get people saying how awesome it is. That lasts, 10 seconds? And then they need more and more and more of it. When those no longer start flowing in, what does that say about their value, their worth, their identity? Everything is wrapped up in this stuff right here. So we as parents have to remind them that they are fully loved, they are fully secure in all of their feelings, and that they have been designed with purpose. So don't allow the world to tell them that. That's your job. And hopefully here we can help them with that as well. Losing their ability to communicate. We have been designed to look people in the eye. Did you know that when you look people in the eye, your brain starts lighting up in some of these areas? Because you are interpreting their body language, you're interpreting their inflection in their voice, the way that you say things, or even the content of your conversation will change because of the way that the people are interpreting the information, right? But how often are our kids learning to communicate with text language? So they're not seeing how the other person responds to their words. They're not seeing the impact and the damage that this is ultimately doing to their relationships. And then on top of that, they're not learning conflict resolution because they don't have to see that their words are making impacts and they're damaging people. So the idea to ask forgiveness, oh my goodness, no way. I can't go up to them and ask forgiveness. What I said wasn't even that bad, right? There's no connection there to repairing relationships, let alone just communicating with one another. And then that leads me to my next one of we are now allowing our kids to objectify others. No longer do we see each other as brothers and sisters of humanity. I see you as a potential person that can give me pleasure, that you can like my page, or you can make me feel good about myself. I try to go and I tell these kids every day that that girl that you just asked a picture from has a mom and a dad, has a brother, a sister, has a favorite ice cream or a pizza, or has a dog. Like, this girl has a life and a story, and you just took her and made her an object for your own pleasure. That's what technology is doing to our kids' brains. That's not a moral character issue. That is literally a physiological thing that now is interpreted through their behavior. That's how we're changing it. And you know what? We're doing it too, aren't we? When we watch those TV shows and we see those actors and those stars and we think, man, those people, how can they live the lives that they live? But yet, and then we gossip about the people that are next to us, our coworkers, as if they don't have families, they don't have friends, they don't have hardships, right? We do it too. We're modeling for them. So, keeping in mind that this stuff is changing their brains, it's changing our brains as well. But here's where we have hope, is these battles have been fought well before technology, right? Our parents fought these battles for our hearts to teach us that we're loved, to teach us that we're secure, and to teach us that we have purpose. We just have to do it in a totally different venue, and let's face it, we are the first generation to come up and have to teach our kids in this way. So we are navigating this together. And that's why programs like this at Carroll, that's why those guidance counselors work the way that they do. That's why teachers do what they do. That's why I'm here. That's why 360 is here, is because we want to do all of this together. You can hear me. I got 4 kids. I'm counting on you guys to help me raise my kids. You know what? I do this stuff. We got to stick in this together. So their brains are changing. Our brains are changing. But the one thing that stays the same is we love our kids and we want what's best for them. So let's continue to seek out the best resources. You asked earlier about resources, about how to stay up to date. Google, absolutely, type it in. Is this app back? How do I get on this app? Another one is Common Sense Media. That's another good one that hopefully stays up to date, but as Brittany said, you know, as soon as you start researching it, it's probably the next day they have a new one. The Teen Safe app. What I like about this is that it shows the applications that your kids are on. So Snapchat, for instance, you're able to see what your kids are posting on Snapchat. So that's another good thing. But I want that to not be a false security that now that you know what they're doing on Snapchat, so you're up to date, you're good to go. No, because again, coming back to that relationship, that's the important part. That's the important part, because the relationship is what transforms our kids. We still have to be focused. We have to look them in the eye. We have to touch them. Did you know that we release an amazing chemical called oxytocin? It's the bonding chemical. That when you held your baby, they were just little tiny things, and you obviously held them for the first year because they couldn't walk on their own, they were releasing that. You were releasing that to bond with them. I know teenagers don't like to be touched or looked at, right? It's kind of the stage that they're in. But try to be as close proximity as you can. Try to have those conversations. Truly look them in the eye and say, how are you today? Because even if they say, I'm fine, I had a good day at school, I don't want to talk about it, they know that you're engaged. And that makes all the difference. That makes them feel loved. That makes them feel safe. And reminds them that you believe that they have a purpose. So guys, again, hopefully this is going to be up. I'm going to type it up because right now it's in bullet points. I don't know if you can read my handwriting. It will be up there. And know that we are obviously available for questions. Anything that you need. Guidance counselors here are amazing. Administrators are here and they're amazing as well. And we are on the front line, so hopefully we have some information that you guys need to know. You just have to ask and let us know how we can be a support to you. So with all of this stuff, any questions for me particularly? Yes?
So, I know that you said let them have access to this stuff, but if their brains are not developed so they can control those impulses, wouldn't you want to remove the obstacles and maybe not give them that cell phone? Or if you do, use those parental controls like Meet Circle or whatever it is that Disney uses.
Yeah.
And then there's another one for your router so that you control anybody that would use your Wi-Fi in your home. They wouldn't be able to access any pornography or anything vulgar like that. So, two things. Then focusing on value, helping them understand. Yeah, I totally agree on the whole having those open conversations to build that relationship and help them know that you're there and you're open and they can have those conversations. But
So let's go to your first part of your question, which is, because of the fact that they lack impulse control and they make really bad decisions, why don't we just hand them all this stuff and just, hope they do a good job with it, right? I do believe that technology is a privilege for kids. I don't think that, they turn 14 years old, you're a freshman in high school now, here you go, you've earned this. No, I think that they need to earn it and they have to, and that's a life lesson for these kids. That's life lesson of there's a responsibility on behavior and you have this contract and you're gonna have to show me that you can do this. And I'm gonna take it away and I'm gonna read your text and I can do whatever I want because it's still mine. I think there's also, they have to prove responsibility with some of these apps. And that's again where I think it's a slow, gradual. How do they do on Facebook? None of their friends are on it, so let me see how you do it on there. Okay, Twitter, let's try this now. Let's see how you do on Twitter. I think it can be a progression of slowly offering them the opportunity to prove that they can make the wise choices.
now, something I did with my oldest daughter, who's now a sophomore in college, is that I didn't let her have access to social media until she was a senior. And if she showed maturity, and if she showed that she could have some self-discipline and not react. And my reason for that is because kids are mean, and they don't think. And I didn't want her to have to deal with that throughout her school years. If she came up with, and luckily nothing ever happened, but I said, okay, you're senior year, you're showing maturity, I'll let you have access. Something happens, I'm taking it away. But by that time, they don't have to face those kids for another 4, 5, 10 years, or whatever many years from the time that they start social media. So
And I think you made a good point about the different personalities in children. Like my first daughter, She is just a blast. I don't even know how she's mine, to be honest. She's so great. She's so sweet, and she's a servant, like kind. And then my second one is purely me, like sassy, talkative. Like that girl is not getting social media because if she's talking that way face to face, I can't imagine what she's going to do. And she's only in 4th grade, okay? So we're not even to that point yet. But I think it does depend on your personality of your child as well. You do have to parent differently with different children. And that's something that you have to be aware of. It's not going to be a blank slate. With this contract, I think it is going to look differently. If your child's an introvert, then maybe a more punishment is to make them hang out with you. If your child's an extrovert, then you need to make them go hang out in their room by themselves. You know, it's just punishments, rewards, all of that stuff is going to have to look differently. And I do think we have to be mindful that our kids don't need smartphones out of the gate. If you are worried about communication, they have flip phones. My kids have a watch, not a smartwatch. It's called a Gizmo from Verizon. You know, so they're able to call me because they go home by themselves for an hour and a half before I get home. Which is why I'm telling you guys so you can go and check on them. In the village. And help each other out. So things are out there. And then the whole router, Disney Go has 2 things. You can do it on the router. So anybody that comes over to your house, they have that filter so that they can't watch the inappropriate things, right? And then they have the Disney Go, which there's different types out there, but this is a good example. Disney Go is on the cell phone so that it can go anywhere regardless of what the router or the data is. But be mindful. What are you concerned about? I'm concerned about my child's heart and the fact that they see Victoria's Secret stuff on primetime TV. It's when that stuff comes out, regardless of what the filter is, that's a teachable moment. That's where you have that conversation of, you know, I don't agree with that, and here's the reason why. It's not a judgment statement. It's, well, you know, I just don't live my life that way, and this is kind of the reason why I feel that way. Yeah.
Something that was pivotal for us, a friend of mine had recommended it, was having a central charging station. Mm-hmm. So my kids, our charging station is actually in my bedroom, and they turn their phones in, and it makes sure, not that I'm not really worried my kids are going to get into pornography. We've been blessed, and that isn't as much of a concern. But the fact that they don't shut it off, they're playing games, or they're staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning on a school night, I can see that happening more often. So it's just a way for them to disengage. And
well, I'm glad you pointed that out, because keep in mind, guys, that we release a chemical in our brain called melatonin to go to sleep. Teenager brains don't release it until 10, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. If they have the artificial light that comes from TV, these lights, and especially their phone right up in their orbital socket, they're not going to be able to go to sleep until 2, 3, whatever time. And you're already seeing irritability because their brain is ADD, they need instant gratification, and they're asked to study geometry that they don't care about because they just want to go and do whatever later in life, right? They're already super irritable, and now they're not sleeping as well, which then is going to affect their eating because they're going to want that sugar and that caffeine, so now they're eating junk on top of that. I mean, you see the cycle here. It gets bad. And nothing good happens after midnight. How many people can attest to that? We're adults, we know, right? I love being an adult. I'm able to go to bed at like whatever time, 8:30 the other day. I'm like, husband, you take care of that, right? Nothing happens good after midnight, and it's because the inhibitions go down. Impulse control already lacking, consequential thinking already lacking, hormones, woo, way up here. They're feeling the stimulus for the first time in forever, ever, right? And they're with this girl, this guy that they think is cute, or they're on Snapchat, they're sending pictures, they're talking to each other. Yeah. Bad things start happening, and that stuff stays forever. Yes?
Curious, maybe not so much a question, but maybe some advice. I mean, we try to not control, but we try to watch what our kids are doing with social media in our own house. But obviously, our daughters will sleep over at other people's houses and may not have the same set of rules or standards that we had. Then after she's slept over, we find out things that were happening at the house. We don't necessarily want to approach the parents and say, hey, what are you doing? Why are you letting your kids do that? But we don't want to keep her from friends members. What's your advice on how to handle that?
Do you know, I'm in the same boat with you. That's my nightmare, right? I hear my child did this or heard that or talked about this, whatever. I don't really have an answer. It depends on how close you are with the family. I think modeling is a big thing. I think also making your home the hangout place is a really important thing. Making it so that all the kids come over to your house and spend the night. I also like the idea that, I've heard this, I don't practice it, but where you pick up your kids at like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. So it's no longer a sleepover, now it's almost like a sleepover. So you get to put on your pajamas and you get to have the popcorn and watch the movie, but they're not staying the night there. So there are some options. But that's such a great question, because what is everybody else doing? This is the stuff we need to be posting on Facebook. Not about parent shaming, we need to be talking about what's a success story, how do I handle this? Because we gotta support each other on this stuff. So good question, when you figure it out, let me know. Yeah.
What do you know about Custadio? I've heard that the app is called Custadio.
Custadio?
I think it's Q-U-A-S-T. It's
Well, you're gonna have to teach me, because I don't know that
well,
one.
it can monitor all the content, every browser that the kid touches, it'll view, you can turn on and off on your phone. You haven't heard of it?
I haven't. I'm gonna have to go home and look at that. Custadio.
It's Q-U-A-S.
It's Italian, apparently.
Yeah, Custadio.
Okay.
I was gonna ask Brittany, but she already left.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to put Brittany on it next
All
time.
right. So I was just.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's other apps you could be looking for, like the secret calculator. Anybody heard of that one?
Well, this ties to what he said, because if your daughter's on a sleepover, you can view what browser they're on, what they're viewing, and you can just turn on, off, monitor. It monitors everything.
So you monitor
Yes.
what they're doing on their phone.
The problem is that app has to be installed on their phone. And
Yes.
It has to be installed on your phone. So
Yes.
good luck getting your, well, we're the parent, right?
Right.
We can enforce that.
It's our job to ruin their lives. Isn't that what they say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of apps out there that you're probably unaware of, and you'll always be unaware of. And that's, again, where we do these conversations. You go on Google and you look up what's the latest teen app, Respect 360, stuff like that.
Custodio.
I can't even say that word. It sounds fancy. Okay.
I don't think-
Custudio.
Spell it.
Isn't that like an 80s song? Okay, it's Custodio. So my understanding is what you're saying is that you upload it on your phone, then you upload it on your children's phone, and then you are able to see what they are browsing. Does that include applications?
Well, I didn't, there was, I never did run with it because I didn't know anything about it. Someone at church had mentioned it, and she endorsed it, and I was too lazy to try it. And then I had to sabotage my $3 phone and install it. And
It takes effort, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like parenting. It's work.
But I don't know. There's a monthly charge. It's not free.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like it's similar to Teen Safe. And that's the thing, is there's tons of probably those types of applications out there. And that's, again, you look up reviews, and hopefully we'll put it up here on 360 and we'll have all the latest updates on that.
You could turn off Instagram, you could turn off Snapchat,
You can even turn off stuff?
Yes, you turn it off, yes.
Ooh, I like this one.
I like it
With
too.
Teen Safe, you can't.
Studio.
With Teen Safe, you can't.
I don't use it
think so.
myself. I don't think so, but I think it's more of a monitoring
It's more
app.
monitoring, yeah.
All right.
Okay, question in the back. Yes. Okay, this is the last one.
You're talking about social media, and are you really seeing any negative effects, or is there anything wrong with not allowing your children on social media? I mean, because even like Instagram, there's a video options on there where you can watch videos. And I tell my kids, like, I wouldn't put pornography on the table and say, don't touch it. Don't look at it, don't open it. But I feel like when I allow my kids to have Instagram, that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, but don't look at videos.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and I think it is absolutely okay, if not the more healthy response, to say, I don't want you to have any social media. My concern, however, is that they're going to go off and live in their own house one day, and they are going to have the freedom to do all of those things. So, again, don't live in fear, but yet I rather my kid is educated on how to avoid, or even sees it and then we can have a conversation, than full-blown, all in your face, no regulations, no conversation in college or later. Hopefully by the time they get there, they're more mature and they can make those decisions wisely. That's my hope. So, if you have any further questions, my email, I can give you my card and we can have that conversation after this as well. Thank you.
Let's thank Paige. just so you know too, Paige is here at Carroll High School on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday. Okay. So if your kiddo is going through something hard and they need to talk to a counselor, we have the privilege of having a counselor right here at Carroll High School that they can come and talk to. She's at Maple Creek on Wednesdays. Okay.
And we do have somebody at Carroll Middle, Carroll Middle 2 days a week as well.
Carroll Middle, do you know which 2 days?
Tuesday, Thursday.
Tuesday, Thursday. Okay, so we also have that SAP counselor at Carroll Middle too. So be thankful for that because we have those counselors available at our schools. And so if your kid is going through something that is difficult, make sure that they know they can come and talk to Paige, and they can make, it's literally, they make an appointment to come and talk to her, okay, right here at school, and it's free. And it's a really great thing, and she has helped wonderful people right here in our school system, okay? Everything that you have learned tonight, I hope that you can take it with you. Again, we're gonna just reiterate this. Don't walk out of here and be scared. Don't go into your household and immediately take all the phones and the computers and, lock them all up in a safe. Don't breathe. It's gonna be okay. But have those conversations with your kids about everything that we talked about tonight, and just keep that open dialogue. We keep pressuring you to keep that open dialogue, but that's an important thing with your teenagers as they're growing, not only for now, but for the future, and keeping that open dialogue. When they're out of your house too, that's an important thing to be thinking about too, okay? If you have any questions on anything, don't hesitate to come up and ask us. You can also email us on our website. It just is contact us. Click on that and it'll send us an email. If you have a specific email for Paige, come up here and get her card. If you have a specific email for myself or for Brittany, then go to our website. Otherwise, we thank you. Yes?
I came in late, so I don't know what the website is.
Oh, it's the little brochure.
Oh, there's a brochure.
Yes, if you didn't get a brochure when you came in, grab that on your way out. And take a pen, because those are free, okay? All right, have a great night. Thanks for coming.
Can you get your card?
Yes, ma'am.
I called the school. I was having some issues with my son.
So you're gonna